So let me start. Today I want to talk about politics. I've always associated the word politics as being poly, the Latin word for many, and ticks, meaning bloodsuckers. To me, all politicians are the same. They're greedy bloodsuckers that could care less about their communities. Whether they were left or right, red or blue, conservative or liberal, they were all greedy bloodsuckers to me. As you've probably noted by now, I'm less than enthused when it comes to government, bureaucracy, and politicians. The reason for my blatant cynicism is that, like Tupac described in his poetically rap song Changes from 1998, I would wake up and see no changes. And I would be very frustrated that I didn't see any changes in my community. I was raised in South Central Los Angeles, where after the 1992 LA riots, my entire community was left in ruins, and no one seemed to care. My childhood was walking to school past vacant lots and what was left of burned down buildings. People doing what they could to survive the poverty on the street corners. And not only did it not matter, nobody seemed to care, not even our politicians that were supposed to care. To me, South Central was the outcast of the city. The politicians preferred to pretend like it didn't exist, and the police were too scared to patrol. As I experienced more and learned from case studies in college, that my community was a well-documented horror story that was a product of redlining, white flight, socioeconomic stratification, the war on drugs, induced poverty, and the list goes on and on. Sorry, my throat's really dry. I would get upset as I would visit my community every weekend from my suburban college. To them, this was just another sad case study, sometimes one even too cruel for them to understand as a true reality. After finishing my education, I vowed that I would make the changes necessary that my community deserved. And I remember the words of Martin Luther King, where he said, "Faith is taking the first step, even when we don't see the stairs." And more often than not, I did not see the stairs. But like a sign of hope, while I was walking my beloved dog down my neighborhood, I came across a flyer seeking candidates to represent our neighborhood of Jefferson Park, a constituency of nearly 50,000 members. And this is where my career in politics began. Yes, I became one of them. With no experience, guidance, or mentorship, I ran full force into campaigning to obtain the votes necessary to become a board member on my neighborhood council. Some of you may be asking, what's a neighborhood council? Well, let me tell you. Neighborhood councils are the closest forms of government to the people. They are advisory bodies who advocate for their communities with City Hall on important issues like development, homelessness, and emergency preparedness. Neighborhood councils are part of the LA city government and have annual budgets funded by your tax-paying dollars. Neighborhood council board members are city officials who are elected by the members of their local communities, and they advocate as volunteers. My experience on the board was intimidating because I was the only Latina on the board, where almost everyone else was retired or 40 years my senior. I remember feeling like a fish without water, learning to speak for the first time. I remember feeling like a fish without water. I was mandated to follow Robert's Rules of Order, which I had never heard of. I was volunteering for meetings that most of the time lasted until midnight. And most of my friends started to believe I was in some crazy cult because I was always at some city meeting on weekends, holidays, late at night. City Hall was my new home. This is when I began to pay my dues, to become a decision maker for my community, where I was able to change and demand the changes my community deserved. I want to practice this exercise with everyone. If you guys can help me, this is going to be a very inclusive part. I want everybody to take a deep breath. Inhale and exhale. Let it all out. And I want you to acknowledge and repeat after me. I am an important decision maker.
I am an important decision maker.
And I have a powerful voice.
I have a powerful voice.
Thank you so much for allowing me that. And I'm going to continue. On the neighborhood council, we were able to do a lot of great projects that I never thought would be possible. One of the biggest ones was renovating a public park. Also working with Public Works to resurface streets, organizing cleanups where we got to meet our neighbors, and also having a voice before developers for our planning and zoning committees of what would be allowed and what would not be allowed in our communities. And I hope that this short speech has maybe motivated you to join your neighborhood council and also be empowered to have a voice, make change, and shatter all the glass ceilings that you think may be there. And like Bartholomew says, they're assumptions. These glass ceilings are assumptions and they are not real. And if there's no space for us, we will make space. Thank you.